The first time I saw the video, I couldn't breathe. My son's voice, soft, stuttering, trusting, echoed from the laptop speakers as a grown man coaxed him into saying things no child should say. And that man was his special education teacher. That was the moment I realized the school hadn't just failed my son. They'd nized his innocence. Before everything fell apart, our lives had a rhythm that almost felt safe. We lived in a quiet neighborhood in Portland, all maple trees and morning joggers, the kind of place where people waved even if they didn't know your name. My husband, Aaron, worked long hours at the hospital, and I, Maya, taught art at a local community center. Our world revolved around one person, our 9-year-old son, Eli. Eli had been diagnosed with autism when he was 3. He was brilliant with patterns and sounds. He could recognize a song after hearing 3 notes, but human conversations were mazes for him. He liked order, routines, predictability. So we built our lives around that. Breakfast at 7:30 sharp. Bus at 8:10. Bedtime at exactly 8:45, or the whole night unraveled. We learned the rules of his world and followed them like gospel. His new special education teacher, Mr. Landon, arrived at the start of 4th grade. Tall, calm voice, kind eyes, the sort of man who made other parents sigh with relief. He gets it, I told Aaron after the first parent meeting. He's the kind of teacher Eli needs. And for a while, it seemed true. Eli started smiling more after school. He talked about things he'd learned, about shapes, about music, about projects they worked on together. Landon even sent daily progress emails, full of encouraging notes. Eli showed great focus today. Eli made a new friend. The school adored him. The other parents adored him. And for the first time in years, I let myself relax. We even started going out again. Date nights we hadn't had since Eli was born. Aaron teased me about my constant checking of the baby monitor app. He's fine, Maya, he said, kissing my temple. You deserve to breathe again. But sometimes, late at night, when Eli would hum softly in his sleep, a tune I didn't recognize, I'd ask, "Where did you learn that, sweetheart?" He'd answer, "Mr. Landon taught me. He says it helps calm me down." And though the melody was gentle, something about it made my skin crawl. Still, I brushed it off. After all, Landon was the professional. I was just a mother who worried too much. Then came the first incident. It was small, easy to dismiss at first. Eli came home one afternoon and went straight to his room, shutting the door, something he never did. When I knocked, he shouted, "Go away." His voice trembled, caught between fear and guilt. I waited an hour before entering. His toys were scattered, his drawings ripped in half. He sat on the floor, rocking back and forth, whispering that he'd ruined everything. When I finally calmed him down, I asked what happened. He looked up at me with wide eyes and said, "Mr. Landon says I can't tell." A coldness spread through me, one that no amount of logic could thaw. That night, I called Aaron, but he was in surgery, unreachable. So I wrote an email to Landon. It was polite, cautious, the way mothers are taught to be when questioning authority. "Hi Mr. Landon, Eli seemed upset today and mentioned something about a secret between you two. Could you let me know if something happened?" He replied within minutes. "Hi Maya, I appreciate your concern. Eli had some sensory overload today, nothing serious. We worked through it privately. He's doing fine now. Please reassure him that he's safe with me." The message was professional, warm, completely reasonable. And yet, something about the phrase, "worked through it privately," wouldn't leave my head. I reread it until the words blurred. The next day, I tried talking to the school counselor. She smiled sympathetically and told me, "Mr. Landon is one of our most trusted staff members. Sometimes children with sensory sensitivities misinterpret boundaries. I'm sure it's nothing." Nothing. That word became my mantra. Nothing was wrong. Nothing to worry about. Nothing I could prove. But deep down, something was wrong. I just didn't have the shape of it yet. Weeks passed, and Eli's behavior changed in small but unmistakable ways. He flinched when I touched his shoulder. He stopped drawing. He refused to go to music therapy. Once, when I found him staring blankly at the wall, I asked what he was thinking. He said, "I'm practicing staying still. Mr. Landon says it's a game." A chill ran through me so deep I couldn't breathe. When I told Aaron, he frowned, rubbing his temples. "You're letting your imagination get away from you again, May. You know how easily Eli gets fixated. If we jump at shadows, we'll make it worse." He was right, of course. He was always the rational one. So I smiled, nodded, and went back to pretending our world was normal. But normal doesn't last when the cracks start showing. A few weeks later, I found a note in Eli's backpack, scribbled in uneven handwriting. "If you tell, no one will believe you. You're special, remember?" My hands shook as I read it. That was the first time I truly understood how cruel people can be when they learn how fragile your child is, and how easily that fragility can be used as a we*P*N. And for the first time, I realized that I might have to become someone I didn't recognize to protect him. I didn't sleep that night. The note haunted me. Those uneven letters burned behind my eyelids every time I blinked. If you tell, no one will believe you. Who writes that to a 9-year-old? The next morning, Eli was humming again, that same strange melody. His fingers tapped against the table in a rhythm I didn't recognize. I asked what it was. He didn't look up from his cereal. It's the quiet game, he said. Mr. Landon says if I can keep the beat in my head, I get a prize. I forced a smile, but my stomach twisted. After he left for school, I sat in the car for 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, trying to decide what to do. Confront the principal? Go to the police? Or maybe I was overreacting. Again. By the time I arrived at work, my hands were trembling so badly I could barely hold a paintbrush. One of my students, a sweet teenager named Lily, noticed. "You okay, Ms. Turner?" she asked. I wanted to tell her everything. Instead, I just said, "Bad coffee." That afternoon, I drove to the school early and waited in the parking lot. I wanted to see Landon, to watch how he acted around Eli, around the other kids. When the final bell rang, the children poured out in a noisy wave. Eli emerged a few minutes later, holding a small blue envelope. Landon was walking beside him, smiling, his hand resting lightly on my son's shoulder. The gesture was innocent. It should have been innocent, but something about the way Eli stiffened made my blood run cold. I got out of the car and called his name. Eli looked up instantly, his eyes wide with relief. He ran toward me. "Hey, sweetheart," I said, kneeling. "What's that you've got?" He hid the envelope behind his back. "A reward," he murmured, "for being quiet." Landon reached us, his smile practiced and smooth. "Maya, good to see you. I just wanted to commend Eli today. He's been making great progress with his social regulation." "Social regulation?" I repeated. He chuckled softly. "Learning to control impulses. We have a system of positive reinforcement. It's all perfectly standard." Something about the word control made my throat tighten. "Can I see what's inside the envelope?" I asked. Landon hesitated just long enough for me to notice. Then he smiled again. "Of course." He opened it. Inside was a small plastic coin, gold-colored, stamped with a star. "It's a token," he explained. 5 of these earn a privilege, a field trip, a special snack, something fun." Eli clutched the coin tightly, as if it were sacred. I thanked Landon and took my son home. Later that evening, while Eli was in the bath, I picked up his backpack. Inside, under his notebook, was another envelope, this one empty except for a sticky residue on the flap. A faint scent of cologne clung to it, the same kind Landon wore. I sat on the bathroom floor, staring at the envelope, while the sound of splashing water filled the air. My reflection in the chrome faucet looked like a stranger's. That night, I told Aaron again. He was exhausted from a 12-hour shift, eyes rimmed red. "Maya," he sighed. "We've been through this before. Every time a teacher raises his voice or changes his tone, you think the world's falling apart." "This isn't about tone," I said sharply. "It's about control." He rubbed his forehead. "Then talk to the school board. Don't start a witch hunt." He didn't understand, or maybe he didn't want to. The next day, I took the day off work and went to the school unannounced. The secretary looked startled to see me. "Mr. Landon's in session," she said. "That's fine," I replied, walking past her before she could stop me. Through the classroom window, I saw them. 5 children sitting in a circle, each with a coin in hand. Landon was speaking softly, his voice hypnotic. "Remember," he said, "quiet minds earn rewards. Disruptions lose points." Eli sat perfectly still, his eyes glazed over, his hands folded in his lap. I knocked on the door. The entire class flinched except Landon, who turned, smiling. "Mrs. Turner. What a surprise." "I just wanted to drop something off," I lied. My voice trembled. He stepped outside. "Everything okay?" I handed him a folder of blank forms from my bag. My hands brushed his cold skin, steady pulse. "Eli's been having nightmares," I said. "About the quiet game." He frowned, then smiled again, the expression too smooth. "Sometimes children with autism dream vividly. Their minds replay what they learn. It's how they process emotions." "He wakes up shaking," I said. "I'll adjust his plan," he said calmly. "You have my word." As he walked back into the classroom, I saw something fall from his pocket, a small blue envelope. He didn't notice. I waited until he disappeared inside, then bent to pick it up. The flap was sealed. Inside, another plastic coin, and a folded note. "Remember the rule. What we do here stays between us." The air left my lungs. That night, I sat in the dark kitchen, staring at that note under the harsh light of the oven hood. I wanted to take it straight to the police, but Aaron's voice echoed in my head. Don't start a witch hunt. Instead, I took a picture of it and sent it to my sister Julia, who worked as a school counselor across town. Her reply came minutes later. Maya, this isn't normal. You need to document everything. Every message, every conversation. Don't confront him yet. So I started documenting. I recorded Eli's stories, saved every email, wrote down every interaction word for word. The more I gathered, the less I slept. Eli began to withdraw even more. He refused to eat unless I sat beside him. He flinched at sudden sounds. Once, when I dropped a glass, he screamed, not just startled, but terrified. When I asked what scared him, he whispered, "The game punishes noise." I wrapped my arms around him and promised, "You're safe here." But my voice cracked, because I wasn't sure it was true. One evening, while tucking him into bed, he murmured, "Mr. Landon says you don't understand me. He says he's the only one who can." That was the moment something inside me hardened. The part that still wanted to believe in systems, in polite conversations and careful emails, it died quietly. I kissed my son's forehead and whispered, "Then I'll make him understand me." And from that moment on, I stopped being just a worried mother. I started becoming his investigator. By the time I truly started documenting everything, I realized how late it already was. The first rule of predators like Landon is simple: they isolate their prey, and the people who might protect them. It began with whispers at school. Parents who used to smile now turned away. The other teachers stopped waving when I dropped Eli off. Even the principal's emails became clipped, defensive. They said I was over-involved. That I was misinterpreting behavioral therapy. They called my concern hysteria dressed up as advocacy. Aaron said it was just bureaucracy, that teachers always close ranks when accused. "Don't make this bigger than it is," he warned. "You'll make it impossible for Eli there." But it already was impossible. Eli no longer laughed. He no longer drew. He sat for hours tracing invisible lines on the kitchen table, humming that same low, rhythmic tune. When I tried to record him describing the quiet game, he clammed up. "If I tell, I lose all my stars," he whispered. "And then the bad part starts." I asked, "What's the bad part?" He looked at me like I should already know. "Mr. Landon gets sad." That night, I sat outside his door listening to him muttering to himself. The words came soft, rhythmic, like prayer. Quiet mind, quiet hands, quiet world. I wanted to rip those words out of his head. The next morning, I called the district office. They promised to look into the matter. A week passed. Then 2. Nothing. Finally, I drove to the school myself. When I walked into the office, the secretary looked up, startled. "Mrs. Turner," she said quickly, "Mr. Landon isn't available." "I don't need him," I said. "I need the principal." The principal, a woman named Mrs. Lee, came out moments later. Her smile was tight, the kind reserved for problem parents. "Maya, why don't we talk privately?" Her office smelled of coffee and laminate. On the wall hung a framed quote, "It takes a village to raise a child." I pointed at it. "Is that what you call this? The village?" She folded her hands. "We've reviewed your concerns. Our staff has extensive training in behavioral methods for children with developmental conditions. Mr. Landon has an exemplary record. If Eli is struggling, perhaps he's," she hesitated, choosing her words, "perhaps he's projecting anxiety he picks up at home." I stared at her. "You're suggesting this is my fault?" "I'm suggesting Eli needs consistency. Stability." My nails dug into my palms. "You mean silence?" Her expression didn't change. "We'll continue monitoring the situation. While he keeps playing his little, quiet game?" I snapped. That got a reaction, not from her, but from the open doorway behind me. Landon stood there, calm, smiling, holding a stack of papers. "Everything okay?" he asked mildly. I turned to him, forcing myself to stay still. "You should stay out of my son's life." He looked at me with practiced concern. "I'm sorry you feel that way. Eli and I have made real progress. I'd hate to see that undone." He brushed past me, close enough that I could smell that same sharp cologne on his sleeve. For a moment, our eyes met, and what I saw there wasn't anger. It was amusement. He was daring me. I left the school shaking. That night, I called my sister again. "He's protected," I said. "The principal's covering for him." Julia's voice was grim. "Then you need outside help. Police. They won't move without proof. Child Protective Services? They'll go through the school first," she said quietly. "They'll talk to him before they talk to you." And that was when I understood. The system wasn't built to protect children like Eli. It was built to protect itself. So I stopped trusting the system. I bought a tiny camera disguised as a button and sewed it into Eli's backpack strap. I told him it was a superpower camera, a way to record his art projects for me. He liked that idea. For the first few days, the footage was harmless. Children coloring, teachers walking past. Landon's voice sometimes, always calm, always patient. Then on the fourth day, I saw it. He crouched beside Eli's desk, too close, whispering something I couldn't hear. Eli froze, shoulders tense. Landon's hand reached out, resting briefly, possessively, on his neck. I paused the video there. My pulse thundered in my ears. That was enough, I thought. Enough to end this. I sent the clip to Julia. It's not explicit, she warned. But it's deeply inappropriate. You can take this to the district, or the police. So I did. The district called a review meeting. I walked into a conference room full of polite smiles and quiet contempt. The principal, a lawyer, Landon himself. They played the footage. Landon shook his head solemnly. I was helping him through a sensory episode, he said. You can see he's overwhelmed. I placed my hand gently to ground him. That's standard practice. He turned to me. You were a teacher once, Maya. You understand how delicate this work is. The lawyer nodded. We see no evidence of misconduct. I wanted to scream. You're watching him manipulate my child. Your child, the lawyer said gently, is suggestible. His recollections may not always align with reality. You understand that, right? That single sentence shattered me. They weren't just defending him. They were dismantling Eli's credibility, turning his disability into a shield for his abuser. When I got home, Eli was drawing for the first time in weeks. I knelt beside him. What are you making? He smiled faintly. A maze. Mr. Landon says if I finish it right, I can come back. Come back where? He looked up, eyes far away. To the quiet room. My hands went cold. What's the quiet room? He pointed to the corner of his drawing, a small, dark square with no doors. That was when I knew. The school wasn't going to help me. Aaron wasn't going to believe me. If I wanted to save my son, I'd have to do it myself. That night, I opened a new folder on my laptop. I named it simply, Evidence. And for the first time, I prayed not for justice, but for courage. The night I found the drawing of the quiet room, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every line of that crude maze replayed in my mind, that dark square in the corner like a doorway into something I wasn't supposed to see. By morning, my decision was made. If no one else would believe me, I'd go straight to the source. I drove to the school before sunrise. The building was locked, but the janitor, Mr. Lopez, an older man who'd been there longer than any of the teachers, was mopping the entrance hall. He blinked in surprise when he saw me. Mrs. Turner? School's closed. I know, I said. I just need to check on something in Eli's classroom. He left a project behind. He hesitated, then shrugged. 5 minutes. I didn't see you. Inside, the school was eerily quiet, the fluorescent lights flickering to life with a hum. I walked the empty corridor toward room 214, Landon's classroom. The door was locked. I hesitated, then used a paperclip from my bag, an old art teacher's trick for stuck storage cabinets. It took 3 tries, but the latch clicked. Inside, everything looked ordinary. Posters of shapes and animals, a shelf of sensory toys, a wall chart of star rewards. And then, near the back, I saw it. A small door, half hidden behind a tall cabinet. Barely 3 feet wide. No window. No label. The quiet room. I knelt and pulled it open. The smell hit first. Stale air, rubber mats, the faint tang of bleach. The walls were padded. There was no light except a single covered bulb. And on the floor, a folded blanket, a plastic bin of calming objects, stress balls, noise-canceling headphones, a stuffed toy. It looked clinical. Safe, even. But something about it made my skin crawl. A faint mark ran along the floor, a scuff, like a chair had been dragged there again and again. I stepped inside. The door swung slightly behind me, muting the hallway sounds. For a split second, I felt it, what Eli must have felt. The silence pressing down, the air too thick to breathe, the sense that once you were in, you couldn't leave until someone decided you could. A voice behind me made me jump. Mrs. Turner. Landon stood in the doorway, his calm expression gone. You shouldn't be here. I wanted to see where my son spends his time, I said, my voice steady. He stepped closer. This is a therapeutic space. It's meant for de-escalation. Then why does he call it punishment? He tilted his head slightly, studying me. Children interpret things differently, especially children like Eli. I flinched. Children like him? Sensitive. Suggestible. His voice softened, almost pitying. You can't imagine how hard it is for them to navigate the world. Sometimes they need structure. Boundaries. Boundaries don't leave bruises, I snapped. He smiled faintly. Bruises. I froze. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Be careful, Mrs. Turner. You're making dangerous accusations. I wanted to scream at him, to shove past him, but his calmness rooted me in place. Do you really think anyone will believe you? He asked. You've already been labeled unstable. Overprotective. Every word you say makes my case stronger. Then, softly, almost kindly, he added, you should focus on your son. He's fragile. He needs stability. Not your crusade. He walked out, leaving me trembling in that tiny room. I didn't go to work that day. Instead, I drove to Julia's office and showed her everything. The footage, the note, the picture of the quiet room, even the bruises I'd found on Eli's wrists after therapy sessions. She covered her mouth. Maya, this isn't just misconduct. It's abuse. I know. You need to take him out of that school now. I tried. The district said transferring mid-year would disrupt his progress. Then do it anyway, she said. Pull him out and let them sue you later. When I picked Eli up that afternoon, Landon met me at the gate. Mrs. Turner, he said pleasantly. A moment. No, he laughed softly. We're having a parent meeting tomorrow. I'd appreciate your presence. I won't be there. Oh, you will. His tone hardened. If you remove Eli without authorization, you'll forfeit his placement. His support services. His entire IEP. I froze. He had me cornered, legally, bureaucratically, emotionally. Eli tugged my sleeve. Can we go home? I looked down at him, small, quiet, clutching that same gold coin in his hand. Yes, I said. We're going home. That night, after Eli fell asleep, I searched Landon's name online. No social media. No LinkedIn. No history before 5 years ago. Just a few education articles quoting him as a special education advocate. But something in me refused to stop. I kept digging, through staff directories, archived newsletters, PTA minutes. And then I found it, an old news clipping from another state, buried deep in search results. Teacher resigns amid allegations of inappropriate restraint practices. The name was slightly different. Jonathan Lander. Not Landon. But the photo. The same calm eyes. The same faint, polite smile. I sat there, shaking. He'd changed one letter and moved across state lines. I printed the article, tucked it into my evidence folder, and called the one person I hadn't dared to before, Detective Rachel Hoyt, an acquaintance from one of Aaron's hospital benefit events. Rachel, I said when she answered, I need to report something. She listened silently as I explained. When I finished, she said, email me everything. Don't confront him again. Don't tell the school. Let me handle it. I wanted to believe her. The next morning, I dropped Eli off for what I told him would be his last day. His eyes filled with tears. But I'll lose all my stars. You don't need stars anymore, I whispered. You have me. When I came back home, I checked my email. Rachel had replied, got your files. Opening a background check now. Stay home with Eli this afternoon. Don't go near the school. But before I could even exhale, another message arrived, from the school's general address. Due to concerns about recent parent conduct, Eli Turner has been temporarily suspended pending review of behavioral disruptions. My vision blurred. They had turned it around. Again. I grabbed my keys and raced to the school anyway. But by the time I arrived, the parking lot was empty. The front door locked. And Eli was gone. I stood there, pounding on the glass, until the janitor appeared. Mrs. Turner, he said nervously, they left early today. Mr. Landon said he was taking Eli to the quiet space off-site for calming exercises. My voice broke. Off-site where? He looked away. He didn't say. That was the moment the world went silent. The moment I realized the maze wasn't just a drawing. It was real. And my son was somewhere inside it. For the first time since Aaron died, I forgot how to breathe. The school doors loomed like the sealed mouth of a nightmare, my fists pounding until my skin split. Where's my son? I screamed at the empty hallway. My voice echoed back. Hollow, useless. Mr. Lopez, the janitor, wrung his hands. Please, Mrs. Turner, don't make a scene. They said it's a temporary behavioral assessment. Behavioral assessment. My laugh came out broken. He's 7. I shoved past him, sprinting down the corridor to Landon's classroom. The quiet room door hung open. Empty. The blanket gone. The bin of calming objects, overturned like someone had left in a hurry. I ran outside, searching the parking lot. His car was gone. I called Detective Hoyt. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Nothing. By the third time, I was shaking so violently I dropped my phone. When I picked it up, there was a text, not from her, but from an unknown number. You shouldn't have gone digging, Maya. Another message followed, a photo. Eli's backpack. Sitting on the floor of what looked like a storage unit. Concrete walls. A dim yellow light overhead. I felt my knees give out. He had him. Something in me snapped then. Not panic, but something sharper, colder. The kind of clarity only terror can sharpen. I drove home on autopilot, tore open my desk drawers, and pulled out Aaron's old laptop. It was ancient, a relic from his engineering days, but I remembered the password. Rachel had taught me a few tricks for tracing metadata once, back when Aaron worked in security tech. I opened the photo, analyzed its data, GPS scrubbed. But one thing remained, the timestamp, paired with a Wi-Fi ID. StorageKing_44W. I typed it into a map search. There were 3 Storage Kings within a 20-mile radius. I sent all of them to Rachel, no reply. So I drove myself. The first one, nothing. The second, closed, locked behind a steel gate. By the time I reached the third, the sun was setting. The air smelled like gasoline and dust. Rows of units stretched in both directions, silent and endless. I parked near the far corner, heart thundering. Inside my bag was the only P***N I owned, a can of pepper spray. It felt ridiculous, fragile. But it was something. I walked down the row, scanning numbers until I saw it. Unit 27B. The padlock hung crooked, as if it had been forced shut too quickly. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. Then, a faint sound. A hum. I lifted the latch. Inside, the air was freezing. A portable heater buzzed in the corner. And there, sitting on a pile of folded mats, was Eli. He looked up at me slowly, his eyes glassy. Mommy. I fell to my knees, pulling him into my arms. I've got you, baby. I've got you. He didn't respond. His hands were clenched tight around something. I pried them open, the gold coin, edges worn smooth. Then, from the shadows, a voice. You weren't supposed to find us yet. Landon stepped forward, his usual calm stripped away. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, eyes wild in the half-light. You took him, I whispered. You took my child. I saved him, Landon said softly. From you. From your hysteria. You poison everything you touch, Maya. Every environment, every relationship. You couldn't control your husband, now you can't control your son. I raised the pepper spray, my hand trembling. Step back. He didn't. Instead, he smiled, that same faint smile he'd used when telling me to focus on my son. You think anyone will believe you, he said. Look at yourself. Breaking into a restricted facility. Waving P***NS. You look unstable. I have proof, I said. Everything you've done, the quiet room, the bruises, the emails, the article under your old name. He laughed, a low, hollow sound. You think I haven't survived worse? People like me don't get caught. We just relocate. Something inside me hardened. Not this time. I sprayed him. Full blast. He screamed, stumbling backward, clawing at his eyes. I grabbed Eli and ran. The lock jammed behind me as I slammed the door shut. I half-carried, half-dragged my son to the car. My hands shook so badly I could barely fit the keys into the ignition. As we sped out of the lot, headlights flashed behind me, his car. He was following. The highway blurred. My pulse was a roar in my ears. I called Rachel again, screaming into the phone. He's chasing us. He took Eli. Finally, her voice crackled through. Maya, listen to me. Pull into the nearest gas station. Stay in the light. Don't go home. I spotted one at the next exit, swerved in, tires screeching. Landon's car stopped at the road's edge, engine idling. He watched from a distance, his face ghostly in the glow. Then, slowly, he reversed, disappearing into the night. Within minutes, police cars arrived, sirens cutting through the dark. Rachel stepped out of the first one. You did the right thing, she said, gripping my shoulders. He's finished. But I could see it in her eyes. Fear, not relief. What if he's not? I whispered. Eli clung to my waist, silent. They searched the storage unit that night. The evidence was overwhelming. Restraints, files on multiple children, recordings labeled only with dates. And one folder marked MT, Maya Turner. Inside were *TS of my emails, photos of my house, copies of Eli's medical records. He had planned everything. 4 months. Maybe years. By dawn, they'd put out a statewide alert. But Landon, or Lander, was gone. Vanished again, like smoke. That morning, as Eli slept curled against me in the police station's waiting area, I watched the sunrise bleed through the blinds and realized something terrifying. It wasn't over. Because people like him don't disappear. They hide. And then they find new names. New children. I made a promise to myself then, and to Aaron, wherever he was, if the system couldn't protect them, I would. This time, I wouldn't just survive. I'd fight back. 2 months passed before the trail resurfaced. 2 months of court hearings, therapy sessions, whispered questions from reporters, and endless nights where every creak of the house made me grab Eli's wrist and whisper, "It's okay. It's just the wind." The police told me Landon had fled the state. They'd circulated his picture, issued a warrant, and flagged his aliases. But each week that went by, my faith in justice shrank. Then, one morning, Detective Hoyt called. "Maya," she said, "we found something." The call log on an old disposable phone recovered from Landon's unit had led them to a small therapy center outside Eugene, Oregon. A man matching his description had started work there under the name Jonas Lake. "Stay where you are," Rachel warned. "We'll take it from here." But staying put had never been my strength. By afternoon, I was in my car, Eli safe at Julia's. My hands shook on the steering wheel, but beneath the fear, something new burned, a kind of terrible calm. When I reached the center, dusk was settling. The building sat at the end of a dirt road, surrounded by pine trees. A hand-painted sign read Haven Learning Institute. It looked peaceful. Inviting. Inside, laughter echoed, children's voices. I walked past the reception desk, my heart hammering. Then I saw him. He was crouched beside a little girl, helping her build a tower of wooden blocks. His hair was shorter now, his beard trimmed, but the way he moved, calm, deliberate, was unmistakable. "Jonas," I said. He froze. Slowly, he stood, turning toward me. "Maya." His voice didn't even tremble. "You shouldn't be here." "No," I said quietly. "You shouldn't be anywhere near children." He glanced around. The room was emptying. Another staff member was guiding kids out for snack time. He smiled faintly. "You're still dramatic as ever. Where's the girl's file?" I asked. "What are you doing here?" He shrugged. "Teaching. Healing." "You call that healing?" I stepped closer. "You kidnapped my son. You broke him." For the first time, his composure cracked. "No, Maya. I saved him from you. You wanted to turn him into your redemption project. But he didn't need your grief, he needed peace." I laughed. Sharp, hollow. "You don't know what peace is. You only know control." He tilted his head. "Control keeps order. You should thank me. Eli will never forget the lesson I gave him." Something in me snapped. I lunged, shoving him hard against the wall. "You don't get to say his name." A door slammed behind us. Rachel's voice cut through the room. "Step away, Maya." She was there, G*N drawn, flanked by 2 officers. Her eyes flicked between us. "Maya," she said again, gentler now, "let us handle this." But Landon wasn't looking at her. He was looking at me, smiling. "See? Even now, you can't control yourself." I took a step back, breathing hard. "You hurt him," I whispered. Rachel motioned her officers forward. "Jonathan Lander, you're under arrest for kidnapping, child endangerment, and multiple counts of abuse." Before she could finish, Landon lunged toward a cabinet, ripping open a drawer. Metal glinted. "Scissors." Rachel shouted. "Drop it." He turned, eyes wild. "You think you can take my life from me? Put it down." For a split second, everything froze. His hand trembling, the officers tense, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear Rachel's voice. And then, he moved. Rachel fired. The sound shattered the quiet room like breaking glass. Landon crumpled, the scissors clattering to the floor. Blood pooled slowly beneath his hand. For a moment, I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Rachel lowered her G*N, breathing hard. "Medical team," she yelled. The paramedics rushed in minutes later, but I already knew. He wasn't getting up. I stood there, staring at the man who'd haunted every nightmare, feeling nothing. No triumph. No relief. Just the hollow ache of what he'd taken from us. Years, safety, trust. Rachel touched my shoulder. "It's over, Maya." I looked at her. "Is it?" She hesitated. "He can't hurt anyone else. That's something." But as they wheeled his body past me, I saw the faintest smile frozen on his face. Like even in death, he thought he'd won. The weeks that followed blurred into reports, interviews, media headlines. Disgraced teacher K** led in Oregon standoff. They called me the grieving mother who refused to stay silent. But grief wasn't the right word anymore. What I felt was closer to exile. Eli spoke less after that. He still woke up some nights screaming, clutching the gold coin so tight it left marks on his palm. The therapists said recovery would take time. But I didn't want time. I wanted peace. So one evening, I drove us to the river where Aaron used to fish. The water shimmered under the sunset, quiet and endless. Eli leaned against me, whispering, "Is the bad man gone?" "Yes," I said softly. "He can't hurt us anymore." He nodded, then dropped the gold coin into the water. It spun once before sinking, a flash of light swallowed by the current. That night, I realized something. You can't erase monsters, but you can starve them by telling the truth. The next morning, I called Rachel. "I want to help," I told her. "Families like mine, parents who are scared, who think no one will believe them." She sighed. "You've been through enough." "Exactly," I said. "That's why I can't stop." Within months, we started a small advocacy network, EchoSafe, a hotline for parents of children with special needs who suspected abuse. Every time I answered a call, I thought of Eli, of that tiny door at the back of room 214. And I remembered that justice isn't a single moment. It's a choice you make every day, to keep fighting, even when no one believes you. The first thing you learn after surviving hell is that peace doesn't sound like silence. It sounds like a heartbeat you can finally trust again. Months passed after Landon's death, and yet the world still felt tilted, like every calm day was a borrowed miracle. I'd wake to the hum of Eli's breathing in the next room, and for a fleeting second, I'd forget everything. Then the memories would return, the quiet room, the photo, his small voice asking, "Am I in trouble, Mommy?" But healing isn't about forgetting. It's about learning to live beside the ghosts. The community we built, EchoSafe, grew faster than I expected. Within weeks, calls poured in from parents across the country, whispers of suspicious bruises, missing paperwork, quiet spaces no one monitored. Each story felt like a replay of ours, yet every voice reminded me why I'd started this. Sometimes I'd sit in the office, a tiny rented room downtown with secondhand furniture and a flickering neon sign, and listen as terrified parents told me their stories. And when their voices cracked, I'd tell them the same thing I told myself every morning: "You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You're not alone." Rachel joined our board unofficially, handling the cases we couldn't take to the press. Julia became our outreach coordinator, training volunteers. It wasn't glamorous, just messy, stubborn survival work. But for the first time since Aaron died, I felt useful again. Eli started therapy with a woman named Clara, a quiet, patient specialist who never pushed him to talk, only to draw. Each week, he brought home sketches of rivers, bridges, bright yellow suns. The shadows still appeared sometimes, dark shapes in the corners of his drawings, but they grew smaller over time, fading into the background. One evening, as I sorted files at EchoSafe, Eli wandered into the office carrying a new picture. He placed it on my desk wordlessly. It showed the two of us standing by the river. Behind us, the faint outline of another figure, a tall man with a fishing rod. "Aaron." Above, Eli had written in big, careful letters, "Safe now." I turned away so he wouldn't see me cry. That night, I tucked him in, smoothing his hair the way I used to when he was a baby. "You're getting so strong," I whispered. He smiled sleepily. "Like Daddy." "Exactly like Daddy." He hesitated, then asked, "Do you still see the bad dreams?" "Sometimes," I said honestly. "But now when I do, I know how to wake up." He nodded. "I can wake up too." After he fell asleep, I sat by his door for a long time, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing. It wasn't perfect peace, but it was enough. 3 years later the headlines had faded. The news cycle had moved on to fresher scandals. But EchoSafe remained, quietly, persistently, like a heartbeat under the noise. We'd helped more than 100 families by then. Some found justice, others only found closure. And though my name occasionally surfaced in advocacy circles, I kept away from the spotlight. I didn't need to be the face of survival. I just needed to keep the promise I made to my son that day in the police station. One afternoon, while reorganizing old files, I found the gold coin. I'd thought Eli lost it that day by the river, but somehow it had found its way back, slipped into one of my bags, maybe by him. I held it up to the light. The engraving had worn nearly smooth, but you could still make out the faint letters, "For bravery." Aaron had won it in high school, a silly science fair prize he used to keep on his desk. He'd given it to Eli once, saying, "It's for when you need to remember you can do hard things." I smiled. We had both done the hardest thing imaginable, survived. So I framed the coin and hung it in the office, above the desk where new families came for help. Whenever a mother sat there trembling, wondering if she should report what she'd seen, I'd gesture to it and say, "This is proof that courage doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it just means refusing to stay silent." The nightmares still came occasionally. Once I dreamed of the quiet room again, the door cracked open, the air heavy with silence. But when I stepped inside, it wasn't Landon waiting anymore. It was Eli, older now, painting the padded walls with bright colors, rivers, suns, and bridges leading out. When I woke, the fear was gone. I took it as a sign that maybe, finally, the story had changed shape, from tragedy into testimony. A few weeks later, Rachel called to tell me that Landon's old victims, the ones from his first school, had come forward. Their statements helped push through a new federal guideline for how calming spaces were monitored. It wasn't justice for everything, but it was something. And when I hung up, I walked out to the backyard, where Eli was building a tower from river stones. He looked up, his grin wide and unguarded. "Look, Mom. It's the tallest yet." I laughed. "It's perfect." The sunlight caught the edges of the stones, turning them gold. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was waiting for the next tragedy. Just living. That night, as we sat by the window watching the sunset fade, Eli leaned against me and whispered, "We're okay now, right?" I kissed his forehead. "Yeah, baby. We're okay." He smiled and closed his eyes. Outside, the wind rustled the trees, carrying away the last traces of a voice that once haunted us. And for the first time, the silence felt exactly as it should, full of peace, not fear.